To this day, I still believe COVID plays a massive part in all of our lives, and I imagine the majority of us can still remember the exact day that we went into lockdown. I was voted in as Student Union President in Dundalk at the time, and to be quite honest, I hadn't thought much about COVID. I was so hell-bent on making sure that I won that everything else outside of that made no odds to me. Even on that day, the election count was supposed to be at 5 o'clock, and it got dragged all the way back to 3 o'clock. Surprise, surprise, I won, and we went out, we partied, we celebrated that night. I did not know in that moment that one of the best days of my life would end up spiraling me into one of the worst scenarios I've ever been in. As I'm sure a lot of us can agree, the first 2 weeks of COVID were brilliant. Got to stay home, make money, and play Xbox or reconnect with all the people we hadn't got a chance to because we had all this spare time. But suddenly those 2 weeks go by, and now you're feeling a little bit lost. Because what COVID truly did to a lot of us is that it took away the social skills that had taken us so long to learn over years and years and years of just being in different scenarios, meeting different people, and just living our lives. Suddenly, we're sat in our rooms, locked into our houses, we're not allowed to go meet people, the fear mongering around COVID was absolutely scandalous. Life completely took the biggest U-turn you could ever imagine. All I know is I found myself smoking a lot more weed, playing a lot more Xbox, just not doing things that I was supposed to be doing at that time. And what's extremely important to remember is that these are extremely developmental years for a lot of people in their teenage years or in their 20s. These are the type of years that you don't get back. The type of years where you can go off and experience the world, make mistakes, take risk, and be able to live with the consequences. Now all of a sudden, you don't have that. You've been ostracized from your community because there is this great big pandemic going on, which in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't that bad. But it was the first time in a long time that there was true fear among people when it came to a disease or a virus. As the months went by in COVID, I found myself more reclused. Not being able to have that social interaction with people, not being able to feel the energy that the world can give you, just being stuck and isolated in your room, and the first real experience of loneliness. And while at the time I was quite medicated and I thought I was enjoying it, it was just destroying me inside. And one of the biggest issues I found trying to come back out after COVID was that I had forgotten how to talk to people. I found it so difficult just to be in a social scenario, not having anxiety or not having paranoid thoughts and trying to be just myself. Because a lot of the time when we find out who we are as people, it's developed through trial and error. Not having the opportunity to be outside, talking to people, making real life connections, it's going to really hurt that person in the long run. Because as humans, all we want to do is connect. We need it. We're not reptiles. We don't get the luxury of being able to be in solitude for a consistent amount of time without going that little bit crazy or losing a lot of skills that we had worked up leading to that scenario. And to me personally, it's absolutely crazy to think that COVID-19 happened 5 years ago. Because whenever I look at the old football highlights or the old basketball highlights or even some old clips of me playing Xbox at that time, it still feels like it was only yesterday. And that's coming from somebody who is now 24 years old and is about to turn 28. I could only imagine the detrimental effects this has had on the younger generation. Could you imagine being a teenager in the most developmental years of your life and you're not able to socialise? You have to go to school through a laptop. You don't get a chance to go out and play sports or hang out with your friends or just live the life that you need to live. And that's why I feel like we're seeing so much loneliness in this day and age, because a lot of us became disconnected from the world at quite a young age. Social media, phones, the internet, it allows us to connect with people that we don't get to see very often. For example, I have a best friend who lives in England. I can FaceTime him, I can call him, I can do all the things that I need to do to make sure that I keep up that connection. But what happens when you actually have those people with you in person, and instead of actually trying to make a conversation or have a laugh or just do all the things that humans are supposed to do, you're on your phone. You're not really making an effort to engage. That's the biggest issue that I feel COVID has brought upon us. We are so disconnected from this world after going through that scenario. And what also scares me is that if there ever was to come around another pandemic, let's say something that resembles the Black Plague, this world might have a very different approach. Because people still do feel like they lost the best years of their life because of this pandemic. I cannot even tell you the amount of opportunities that I lost from being stuck in my room. I was supposed to fly out to different countries on work-related business. I was supposed to go to different hotels, meet up with other people in the same niche as me. There were so many things in my life that I missed out on because of COVID. Now look, there's not much we can do about it, and hindsight's 2020. If we all knew the risks that COVID truly posed 4 or 5 years after it happened, we would be out doing the exact same things, especially young people. But that's not how it works out, and a lot of us made a very conscientious decision to look after the more vulnerable people in this world. And if you did that, kudos to you, because it shows that you have a big heart and that you're willing to make sacrifices on your own behalf for the betterment of others around you. But then it leaves the other people who needed those years, those people who are still feeling very lost, very lonely, very disconnected from the world. And another big issue that comes with that is when you're disconnected from the world, you lack empathy. Not having empathy from a young age is very, very dangerous. You need to understand that you have to be able to feel your emotions. You have to be able to connect with the world. And if you can't do that, you're going to find it extremely hard to fit in within the society. So going forward for myself, as I'm still recovering, I'm making it my job to go off and do things that make me uncomfortable. And it's such a shame because I spent a lot of my teenage years being able to build up charisma, character and confidence. And all of a sudden, it just goes like that. Now, I'm not saying I still wouldn't have lost it. It's still very possible, but obviously when you're going through a scenario like that is completely unbeknownst, that has never been seen before, your reactions tend to be quite different. And to be honest, if you look back, you might not be very proud at how you handle it. But at the same time, you got through it. You're still here and you're still able to make the choice to change your life for the better. So if you are somebody who is still struggling from COVID, the only advice I could give you is to get back out there and live the life that you would live if COVID never happened. You won't be able to get back those years. That is the hard truth that you need to swallow. But that doesn't mean the years ahead of you still can't be lived with vigor and confidence. You can still go off and enjoy your life. You can still go off and do the things you were going to do regardless of COVID. It's just up to you if you want to make that choice.